All right, everyone. I have Ronan Donagher alongside me for another episode of eProcast. He's the IT and Broadcasting Technology Manager at World Rugby. And first and foremost, Ronan, congratulations on your and to your team on winning the Sports TV Awards 2020 that was announced yesterday for outstanding production achievement brought by CVG Europe and Canon. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, huge. Thank you very much, I suppose, first of all, for having me on your show. It's been very interesting. I've listened to the first couple of episodes, which has been fascinating. Coaches and players on there talking about player data. So anyone who hasn't listened to them, please go back and listen to them. Look, the award was fantastic. It's the first time we done the host broadcast as an organisation ourselves. And yes, we did bring in someone obviously to deliver it, but it was an amazing journey to be on, both from the deliverables that I was directly responsible for, like video replay, the selection of the stats and the graphics provider, but also working with those guys in IGBS, like they do the FIFA World Cup, or HBS do, which is part of IGBS. They're pure professionals. They know exactly what they're doing, when it needs to be done, in the right way. So we couldn't have asked for a better partner, and it was great to see the industry recognise it.
Absolutely, and we all know with every Rugby World Cup, as we go, into the future, all of them are just getting better and better, and I love seeing that. And we're all talking about the Rugby World Cup that was in England in 2015, how huge success that was, and afterwards moving the World Cup to Japan, and first time on the Asian continent. It's been crazy, and I would say not a lot of people was expecting maybe that big success as it was in England, but then when we saw the numbers, that was crazy, wasn't it?
Oh, listen, it was absolutely fantastic. As you say, the first time in Asia, also the first time that we had to cancel some games during Rugby World Cup, which, in itself brought about a lot of questions from the media, from the unions, from the suppliers. So the guys, everybody across the board, from the organising committee, our own staff, and back to the suppliers we deal with, they all just put the shoulder to the wheel and got on with it, because it's the one thing about rugby, I suppose, whether you're a player, a fan, or a supplier in the sport, it seems to bring everybody together just to want to deliver the best outcome for the sport.
Yeah, we see with all this current situation and COVID pandemic, we have major events like Tokyo 2021 being postponed. How, when you saw this coming, like at the beginning of the year, how lucky you think you thought you were that the Rugby World Cup finished right before
Oh, listen, we know now how lucky we were. There's no doubt. Like we can't forget that people in Japan did lose their lives during the hurricanes, and we should always remember those people.
Absolutely.
As I said, we obviously cancelled some games. Everybody was disappointed, but it was for health and safety grounds and nothing else. That was the real reason. If we were there now with this pandemic going on, obviously the whole thing, well, it looks like the whole thing would have been cancelled. So yeah, we're lucky we got out, and we thought at the time it was the worst thing ever could have happened. We thought the hurricanes, that nothing could beat this, but look, we've all been proved wrong.
Right. And Ronan, moving to your background, and let's give a little bit of context to everyone listening to the podcast. What you've been doing at World Rugby, because basically this is your life. You've been set for almost 18 years in there.
Yeah, 18 long years, 18 very good years. So look, to give you the very quick rundown, the background, I went to university first doing electronics. I didn't progress out of that. I liked it, but I liked college life a bit too much at the time. So I had a number of careers, and I think the number of different careers I had, short careers after that, really helped me, and I'll come back to that. So I went from being college to being a barman, as you do in Ireland. You normally one side of the bar or the other. And then I was a postman for a while as well. So lots of different careers. And then I went back to university doing technology. Done that for a number of years in the west coast of Ireland in a place called Sligo IT, which was fantastic. And then we moved to Dublin, myself and my wife, in 2001. I started working for eBookers, the online travel agent that most people will know. Again, doing kind of tech support to those guys and integration of different systems. And from that, IRB at the time, World Rugby pre-World Rugby IRB, took on e-bookers as their travel agents, and that's how I got to know the guys in World Rugby back in 2003, just before the World Cup. And an opportunity arose and I went for it, and thankfully I got it. So since 2003, I started off doing tech support, and World Rugby have been extremely good to me. They put me through college part-time, so I've managed to gain 2 masters in Trinity College Dublin during working full-time. And I've progressed from tech support up to, being one of the leaders in the technology department now, fully responsible for the video, basically any technology that helps with the game. So whether it be the match officials, sighting, medical, when I say player analysis, it's not the actual analysis software, but it's getting the footage to the guys. Anything like that around technology in the game falls under my part of my remit. The other parts of it obviously are I still look after or help, run the technology department. And the third string to my bow, I'm responsible for innovation within the organisation, which has been a challenge, to be honest with you, generally because we've so many people knocking on the door with so many fantastic ideas, and it's trying to pick the good ones, get the right people in the organisation to listen to those people who are coming in the door with fantastic ideas and trying to marry them up together, and then obviously trying to find events to trial them at or budget to pay for them or things like that. So it's moved quite a lot in the last 17 years, my role. It never fails to challenge. It never fails to deliver. We are, as you know, probably a very small organisation in the global scale. We're 120, 30 staff, one office in the world based in Dublin. But even pre-COVID, 75% of our staff travel 75% of the time. So, we're always remote, and that brings us challenges, but it's good as well. So we're very, very small, very flexible, and sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's fantastic.
Tremendous. And for the audience today with Ronan, we will touch more the broadcasting, the potential OTT, what that means and why is beneficial and why everyone is moving towards this phenomena in nowadays. And also one of the most important things is to engage those fans, because this is it's constant fight for the views on TV, right?
Constant, yeah. Look, I'll disappoint you and your fans maybe a small bit. We won't touch on OTT that much because we looked at in the relative past. We decided not to do anything, and it may be something we're going to do in the future. But to be quite frank, it's someone else in the organisation is dealing with that. So not to take away from their thunder. I'm more interested in getting the feeds to them, getting the content to them, and I'm not about content either. But I'm more on we've all these cameras at a match. How can we get them in the time that they need to do the job that they need? So, and for future reference as well, so archiving and stuff like that. But go back to the fans and what the fans want. It's a very live and interesting topic you mentioned, because we in rugby, it's a complicated sport, as you're well aware from your refereeing and playing days earlier in your life. It's not like football in terms of, I'll tell you why. Camera-based technology. If we want to camera track someone for speed and distance in football, it's fairly simple because they don't generally come together like that in a scrum or a ruck or a maul, as they do in rugby. And it takes manual intervention then when they come apart to re-identify who the players are. So some things work in some sports and they don't work in other sports. So they're the type of challenges we have. And that brings me on to, we thought we needed speed and we thought we needed distance of players, to engage with the fans. We see them looking at this in other sports, and we thought, that's what we need to do as well. How can we do it if we can't do it by GPS, if we can't do it by camera? What can we do? So one of my newer colleagues who joined us quite recently asked a very simple question, and it's something everybody should ask themselves. Do we really need it? Do they want it? So we were spending time, thankfully not a lot of money, but we were spending time looking at different products, looking at different services, trying to see how we were going to solve this problem in the best way for everybody. And this lovely chap came in and says, "Are you sure that's what they want?" And we couldn't answer the question. So what we are about to do next week is we're going to launch a study globally with fans through it can be a closed study through a third-party agency, or going to basic market research, are going to go to the market and they're going to say, "Guys, what do you actually want to see? I don't know if the questions are going to be as basic. Do you want to see speed? Do you want to see distance? How can we engage with you? How can we get you more interested in the sport? And then we'll take the findings from that, and then we'll decide what we need to deliver from technology to be able to help the marketeers and the broadcasters engage with those fans. So at the minute, we're not stopped, but we're standing still and kind of reviewing what we need to do and how we're going to do it before we invest.
Right. Don't tell me that chap got fired.
No, definitely not. No, look, it was a simple question that he asked, and it was look, when you think about it, it's an obvious question, and it's a question anyone should ask themselves with any project. Why are we doing this?
Right, Ronan. And here, been a little bit. I've been a little bit in the American environment, let's say, with everyone growing and watching NFL, and I really believe that NFL and rugby, when we look at these two together, we can talk about power. So with NFL coming with the chips, with some sort of chips that would measure the power, the force, and stuff like that. I think this might be something which, and this might be just for future reference and calculating power and stuff like that, which speed can be calculated in outdoor sports because it's GPS based, and
you raise a very good point. And look, I don't think I've mentioned it yet. The first thing we do at every meeting, internally, externally, whenever we're talking, player welfare is our number one consideration before we do any fan engagement, before we do anything. So what you raised there is quite a valid point. There's a possibility we could do something like that, but you have to be sure that it's very accurate, because you don't want to be limiting studies or people's careers or whatever with false readings. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and when you're dealing with player welfare, you have to be 100% all the time that what you're doing is correct. So we leave that one to the researchers and the guys internally to come up with, if this was the work, yes, we need to do it, and then we look at it. But yeah, you raise a very good point.
Right. And I remember one of the conferences I was last year. I was talking to an executive from a tracking company, and like the GPS tracking solution. And at the beginning, I thought it's only speed, time, like maybe rest and stuff like that. But then when I saw that they're integrating some sort of how fast front row guys are getting back on their feet, because rugby is a game that is playing on feet, on players' feet. And when I saw this kind of new information and data is integrated in and making it more complex, I think it's really we're getting into a new world of data and fan engagement.
Oh, totally. Like it's where the data scientists are going to come into their own. Like what you speak about there, the devices haven't changed, so the hardware is going to be still the same, and the data points are still the same. It's putting that different skew on how you use the data. So you're quite right. It's not just point A to B anymore. It's Absolutely. That X, Y, and Z elevation. Those axes that people are looking at, and it's everybody just trying to get the upper hand. Might be the wrong way to put it, but trying to get the best use out of the data to basically to win. That's what they're all trying to do.
Of course, and the market will say its word. And I think it's the only answer is just trying things and see what the market responds and what the viewers respond and their feedback. Ronan, we and this actually for the audience, the game of rugby was the first one to introduce the television match official, which if you're more familiar with football or soccer, it's VAR, something like this. And at the beginning, and it's my personal thought, at the beginning was meant to help the referees, the match officials, to take the right decision in order to the outcome of the game to be fair and the right team to win and so on. What do you think with the time, and how did the TMO involved, and taking some of the referees, power maybe over decision when they look at the TMO, and is it leaning towards more fan engagement? Like, if you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, it's I suppose it's an interesting point, because the technology The technology, while it has changed, we've gone from the TMO sitting in the broadcast truck, just being able to review what the director or producer shows them when they need to look at it. Now, we've had comments about incidents in the past, in the way back past, that certain angles were not shown to a TMO during a review process. And once a decision was made, suddenly, angles were presented to the TV audience that showed something completely different. We don't have evidence of that per se, but it's comments that were made. If that was true, it's bad for the game. You can't understand why it happened, I suppose, but it is bad for the game. So what we done a number of years ago for Rugby World Cup 2015, we brought in a video replay supplier, and we moved the TMO out of the broadcast area into a sanitized location on venue with a number of video replay operators. They now have access to every camera angle all the time, so they're not reliant on the director whatsoever to provide them with anything. They have the whole lot. We changed that up between 2015 and 2019. What we done was, in 2019 we went straight to the video replay operator for all the replays. In 2015, what we done, we allowed the match director to show the replays first, and the TMO could make their advice known to the referee, because let's not forget, it's still the referee that makes the final decision. So they could make their advice known to the referee on those clips, or they could ask if there was other clips in the video replay operator who was sitting right beside them, they would watch those as well. Okay, so it was you had TMO sitting here, you had video replay operator here, but there was a bit of a circle back into the truck and background again. 2019 we changed that. We said no, we're going to have it all in one little bubble itself. So now it's purely TMO and video replay operators work together as one. When a review happens, they open, basically the broadcaster opens the channel coming into them, and they take that footage. So they sit back and they go, okay, you run the replay, and they run all the replays, and then the referee on field makes his decision. Now, we had some queries, comments, some strong voiced opinions pre that, saying, this is a TV show, even though it's sports, we want to tell the story. It'll look bad because it'll be rocking and rolling for the non-TV people. That'll be, kind of rewinding and fast forwarding that everybody would see. And well, my point was, that's fine, but we get the right decision in the right time. Like, there's nothing worse than either watching a TV program, a rugby match, or in venue, and you're seeing the same footage going over and over and over again for 30 seconds, a minute, 90 seconds, and waiting for an outcome. And everybody loses interest. So we said, look, first thing is, it has to be the right decision. Second thing is, it has to be as quick as possible. And we felt that this was the way to do it. And I believe we were proven right. There was, I think, one or two rock and roll incidents, but there was nothing in the news about it. Nobody lost their jobs or lost their life over it. It worked,
Absolutely, and we saw in all the sports, even if there's a television match official, we noticed in even in NFL, not last season, but the season before, in the national championship, I think it was NFC, if I'm not mistaken, a clear pass interference in Saints against Chiefs, I think, or something. LA Rams, I think, and it was a clear decision, but somehow they got, even if you have all the cameras and stuff like that, the referees have a lot of pressure whenever they take this kind of decision. I'm saying from my perspective, even though I've never refereed with TMO or with RVR, yes, in the US, but not with TMO. And what, Ron, if you can elaborate on what has been the feedback on the TMO nowadays? Because before it was longer. We're trying also. I think you're also trying to shorten the period off the field, because the game is 80 minutes with some stoppages. And we really don't want this game to be half an hour longer, or hopefully not 1 hour longer. And what has been for example, the feedbacks, or if you have any numbers to share after, for example, Rugby World Cup 2019?
I don't have any numbers to share. We can get some maybe and pop them in at the end of the podcast, perhaps as a link or something.
Okay.
The feedback has been great. Listen, it's like everything with technology. When you don't hear anything, it's been good. and that's the same whether you're using a new device or a piece of software or, a new service like this. It's when people aren't complaining about it and giving out, you've done your job. Don't get us wrong, there's been loads of testing involved. We've done testing both in the northern and the southern hemisphere. We've got our operators to go and meet the TMOs. We use a Springboks game for testing, with more for familiarization actually, with one of the directors who was one of the team of 4 directors that we had at Rugby World Cup. So we had to not only get the TMOs used to the system, which was quite actually the easy part, because some of them were around from 2015. We got it used at the Six Nations and things like that as well, which was great. The challenge was really getting the production staff and the directors up to speed. So some had used it before. Some of them have been involved in 2015 and had known it from then. Some it was brand new to. So to get them to be able to kind of give up a bit of control in their eyes was a bit of a challenge. But it's all about collaboration. And once we explained why we were doing it, it goes back to the 2 points. 1, getting the right decision, and 2, getting it in a swift manner so that we keep the fans engaged. And sorry, going back to one of your questions earlier that I didn't answer about fan engagement in the TMO. And I think where part of this is going with technology, and you mentioned OTT, it's definitely a second screen experience. Now, maybe it's second screen more around 7s than 15s, because 7 seems to bring that younger person watching the game, and it's a bit more the millennial and even younger, so they might be watching on TV but also watching the whole stats output on the second screen, or a different camera angle, or a different commentary view, or stuff like that. So yeah, there's a difference in the two sports, I think, and who's watching them and what they want to get out of it. I think the 15s is more about, I just want to see what's happening on the field, and if there is some pre or post production stuff, about players, or insights into training, or insights into different tactics used, you will definitely have a need for that. Whereas 7s is a bit more the festival type atmosphere, and we try and look at it maybe like NBA. Right. We think the 7s is like that a bit in terms of the people getting engaged with the second screen is definitely something we're thinking about and looking at more.
Right, and for example, in soccer, that's for in American, or football in European. We know, and the listeners might not know, but we'll share this. There's a number 1 camera, which usually it's 95 or 98% all the time using everyone's. It's one angle and that's it. What does that looks like in rugby? How many main cameras and how many other cameras are?
Yeah, so Rugby World Cup 2015, we had. I was going to say, don't quote me, but everyone's going to hear this. We had, I think, around 48 cameras was the maximum we had. Rugby World Cup 2019, we reduced it slightly. At the most, we had late 30s, maybe early 40s. At an under 20s, we would have maximum of 12. At the 7s, we probably have between 8 and 12, depending on where we are and, what type of cameras we can get in there. So we all love Spider-Cam. Spider-Cam's very expensive, or aerial cam, to use the correct terminology. If we can get that in, fantastic. We've also tried other things at the 7s for a couple of times, like Segway cam. So we've an operator based out in New Zealand who comes along with his own Segway that he's cut in half. So no top part, so he stands on it. If you get a chance to watch this guy, he's absolutely fantastic. and a steady cam, and up and down the sideline, onto the pitch and everything, and he's absolutely brilliant. This year in Vancouver, we backed the innovation. We tried a buggy cam, so a remote controlled buggy cam system, and that worked as well. But the key things here, back to player welfare. So some stadiums do not allow us, not that they don't, but the width of the pitch doesn't allow for the use of extra cameras like that, because you have to have, as you know, the runoff area for player welfare. So look, we've anything from 8 up to 40 cameras, and that brings its own complexities as well, both with the number of staff, replay operators, EVS coordinators, producers, directors, and that's just to get the TV show out. That's not including, the medical guys, the TMO, the sighting commissioners, all the various other people who use those TV cameras as well.
I'll tell you which camera is my favorite, and you might guess.
Is it the end on?
No, it's the ref cam.
The ref cam.
and the mic.
Here's a question back to you. So, did you ever wear the ref cam, reffing?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the ref cam.
Yeah. Yes. But recording a game, not live, but just wearing a GoPro and just running with it, and getting the footage first person.
So here's an interesting query or thing that we're looking at the minute is actually around ref cam. So the match officials currently wear one vest for the ref cam with a battery and a sender and receiver. They wear a ref mic with a battery. Sorry, the batteries are built into the ref mic, but they have a sender and a receiver. And that's another vest. And they have a third vest with a GPS unit. So all in all, I think they're up to about 3.5 pounds of equipment, excluding their jersey, their shorts, their watch, and they're wearing that for 100 minutes of the 15th game. So we're in the process at the minute of trying to rationalise down the vests down into one, and obviously cutting down the weight into, we're hoping to try and get something under £1 or £1.50 for all that equipment, because it's a lot. If you're running around with that, it's a lot of extra kit, you know.
That's why they're getting like double size up on shirts or gear.
and there's a prime example now of the type of work that I'm involved in. So not really technology related, but it's got a plug on the end of it, and it's to do with the match. So that's why they come knocking on my door to try. And listen, I don't pretend that I'm going to be able to solve most, if all, problems. That's why we've wonderful, brainy, fantastic suppliers and innovators all around the world who love all sports, not just rugby, and they're keen to get involved in everything to solve problems.
Right. Ronan, regarding fan engagement, as we, broadcasting and fan engagement are like just quote unquote going together. What are the new things that you're implementing? And I think it's fair to go with the trends and to try to, as we talked before, to gain that viewers attention. What are the new things you might work? Of course, if you're willing to share something.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, quite honest with you, it's not that I won't share. We're doing this market research to find out what the fans want. The ones we've done very recently in the past, and others have done as well. You're right about the ref cam, the coach cam, the camera in the dressing rooms as well. Something to give that insight. There's cameras. If you're going to stick a camera somewhere that hasn't been before, somebody will be interested in seeing it. Likewise with statistics, a number of people globally will be interested in statistics. Is it for everybody? No. Is the cameras everywhere for everybody? Probably not either. What we've done recently in the last 2 seasons in the sevens, we've got a Kiwi company on board to help us with remote commentary. So we now do multilingual commentary on our digital platforms. So up until 2 years ago, it was English everywhere. It was English commentary on the linear and it was English commentary on the digital. So by bringing in this third-party supplier, we can go up to 25 different languages on our digital platform. In the past, we have done Mandarin, Thai, Indian, as well as English. Obviously, on the linear, we've done French, Spanish, and Japanese, all in the one weekend for 7. So we had about 6 or 7 different languages, which was fantastic for us. Sorry, Spanish as well, of course, was fantastic for us and got a lot of traction on social media and got a lot of traction on our digital platform. So there's one simple way of engaging with more fans, is just doing it in their own language, Now, graphics-wise, we're still in English for sevens. For Rugby World Cup, we do have the option of multi-language graphics if the broadcaster wanted. So again, Japanese and French were the 2 that were taken during 2019. Look, things like that, just to use the word engage, but it is to engage the fans, to make them understand it a bit better, and even the understanding of the game. As you know, you're well aware of this, rugby is a very difficult game, or can be a very difficult game to understand. Some of the calls that you and your comrades and the officials make sometimes can be questioned, and sometimes people don't understand what they're for, me included. So maybe another way of fan engagement, and we've batted this one around a bit, is to have like an L bracket on the screen, and just when the referee makes a decision, to be able to pop up on a graphic or a quick GIF what it was and why it was caused. Something like that might engage with the fans as well. So it's really stuff like that, huge. That's all it is. It's trying to get the fans to better understand the game, and we believe that by them understanding the game, they're going to engage with it more. Right.
And touching a little bit because we all know your last event was the Rugby World Cup in Japan. What were the downsides or challenges or the even failures, if you will, that you went through? Of course, beside the, unfortunately, the natural,
the typhoons.
The typhoon that was on the way, and World Rugby had to cancel a few games. What were from from the broadcasting or not broadcasting aspect, what were the main challenges that appear in the way?
Look, to be honest, it went very well. Need to say we won an award last night for it. For the World Feed production was great. We done a lot more this time than we've ever done before. Like as I said, this was the first time for us to be the host broadcaster. This was the first time that we gave extra content to the broadcasters, both on site and remotely as well. They got a lot of content that they would never have got before. The challenges were kind of dampened down a bit of enthusiasm. Like they got so much stuff, they wanted to do so much, and it was fantastic. It's keeping it all together. There was no real challenges, to be honest. It's the challenge of a big event is just the size of the event, really, and it's everybody knowing what they're meant to be doing and also who they're meant to be contacting to do stuff. So, you know, you go from a small event where one person might have multiple roles up to a large event where suddenly they used to deal with 3 different things. Now they're only dealing maybe with a subset of one. It's like any project. There's clear roles and responsibilities. The broadcasters on site were fantastic. We didn't have too many of them, but they were great. The host union were fantastic as well. The language barrier wasn't a problem in the end. The cultural barrier wasn't a problem. The change of culture for all the Western people who went to Japan was fantastic. Everybody from the staff to the suppliers to the teams that were there, I think everybody really embraced it, and it was great to see somewhere new and somewhere different. And like Japan being such a wonderful country with so many millions of people who didn't even know rugby was going on, and for the teams and everybody to be able to kind of walk around and interact, I think they all really, really enjoyed it.
Right. And Can you elaborate more on how World Rugby, when it comes to broadcasting, how World Rugby is dealing with the broadcasting rights and so on? Like what's the procedure of someone to qualify in order to win the tender? Is there any tenders or something like that? How does it work for the audience to educate them a little bit?
Yeah. So for showing the sport, So we. As I said, we've done the host broadcast 2019 ourselves. We've also taken the broadcast for all other events in-house as well. So up until that, it was very much the host union would have to deliver a world feed. We're now doing it all ourselves. Main reason is that we have a consistent product. It looks the same. It looks the same, but with the country differences where we go. So if we go to New Zealand, we showcase New Zealand. If we go to Hong Kong, we try and showcase Hong Kong, and so on and so forth. But on pitch, it should look the same. Like we're trying to make heroes out of all these guys, all these players, both men and women that are playing our sport. That's another way of engaging with the fans. We want them to be recognisable. We want to be able to say, there's Karen Niles, there's Perry Baker. We want them to know these people. In terms of buying the rights, we do care more than just about the money. We want to make sure that the sport is shown in the country that they're buying it for. So it's very challenging sometimes, depending on how large the country is and how many sports have been shown at the same time, to make sure that we get what we feel is the position that we need. So to give you an example of that, if you were to go on to some EPGs, so the guide on your television, and a broadcaster may have a number of different channels, say 1 to 4, 1 to 6, even sports channels. We want to be on the number 1. We don't want to be down on the number 6 or the number 7. So they will be part of the negotiations my colleagues who are selling the rights will have with the potential rights holders who are buying the rights to say, okay, the money is one thing, and there's no doubt the money is probably very close to number 1, if not number 1. But we also want to make sure that the product has been shown. Like so much so that we actually changed what we're doing. We created this thing called the Super Session. So at the end of the sevens now, we package it up at the end of the day. Because let's be honest, nobody's going to watch a full day of sevens. It's just not going to happen, right?
Like 12 hours.
Yeah, exactly. So we've the super session where we have basically we get to the tail end of the day. So you have it's wrong to say the better teams, the ones who have progressed further on that day in a session, and we push that out there. So the broadcasters seem to like that as well, because it's the more kind of exciting stuff.
Right, and besides Rugby World Cup and Rugby World Series, World Sevens Rugby Series, what other portfolio of events are you covering under World Rugby? Because a lot of people know about Six Nations and this kind of competitions, but which ones are falling under your umbrella?
Yeah, so Six Nations isn't us. Six Nations, SANZAR, they're not Super Rugby. Any club competition is not us. So what we have is anything with Rugby World Cup. They're all Rugby World Cups now. So we used to have Women's Rugby World Cup, Sevens Rugby World Cup, and Rugby World Cup. They're now all called Rugby World Cup, just with the different year signifying, what they are. So next year we've Rugby World Cup 2021 for women in New Zealand. The following year in 2022 we have the Sevens Rugby World Cup. Rugby World Cup Sevens in South Africa, in Cape Town. And then, of course, in 23, we have the World Cup in France. So we do anything with World Cup. We do the HSBC World 7 Series, as you've quite rightly pointed out. We have the Under-20 Championship, which is the top 12 teams in the world at Under-20s. We have the Under-20 Trophy, which is the next 8 teams in the world. We do a number of other competitions, and they kind of change on an annual or biannual basis. So we have the Pacific Nations Cup, the Americas Rugby Cup, the Challenger Series, which is a number of teams below the HSBC 7 Series, to get up into that, in a progression up into that. We do, they're the kind of the main ones. There's another one that we're talking about down in a women's competition down in the Pacific region as well, with 4 teams down there. So player welfare is number one for us, but after that it's about growing the game. So, what does growing the game mean? Is it getting more people to watch it? Yes. Is it getting more people to play it? Yes, it is as well. So, our role is not to make money for the sake. We're not a profit-making organization, like if you were someone making, screens or monitors. Our goal is to make money to invest it back in the grow the game. That's our goal. So we always put on these smaller events that don't make any money, that cost a lot of money, to help grow the game, to get players out, to get them competing against other nations, to help them better themselves.
Absolutely, and I agree that with World Rugby, as other big international federations, are the main goal is just whatever they make as a profit, retain and put it back into growth of the game, and attracting more eyeballs and stuff like that. And of course, as from your side, is more access to more technology, and something which will grow the audience.
Yeah. Look, we all grow. It's I suppose there's no secret that Rugby World Cup makes the vast amount of our revenues, right? And the other events don't really make any money for us. So the more events we put on, the more staff that have to go to them, the more technology that is needed, and it's a bigger drain on resources. So it's finding that right balance of getting the most appropriate technology to deliver the best results within the right budget. That's really what we kind of do. So look, we'd all love to go out and be able to put a spider cam in every venue that we go to. Right. But that ain't going to happen,
One thing I've been asked as well, and I appreciate you accepting this call, and I've been asked a lot. Rugby X, what's Rugby X? What are your thoughts? Share some of your thoughts, and how, as far as I know, there was an event already in London last year at O2 Arena. Have you worked with together with Rugby X as an entity? With, as far as I know, Ben Ryan, the ex Fiji Sevens coach, initiated this league, this sport as it is. What are your thoughts, and how do you think it's going to integrate in the rugby ecosystem?
Oh, listen, it looks very exciting. I wasn't personally involved in it whatsoever, and I don't think any of my colleagues in World Rugby were, bar, we gave, it's wrong to say we gave permission as such, but we were consulted beforehand, and we it went ahead. That's perfect. But delivery wise, we weren't involved in the delivery of it. It looks exciting. Look, it's a festival of rugby. That's what it is. If it gets people interested in the sport, fantastic, absolutely fantastic. No more than wheelchair rugby as well. If that gets people involved in the sport, whether they are people in wheelchairs or people just watching and wanting to know more about rugby, that can only be good. It can only be good for all of us. And even on a human level, forgetting about the actual sport, I think anything that keeps people, fit, both mentally and physically, is going to be fantastic. And that we can do to help them do that, regardless of the sport, it can only be seen as a positive.
Right, and we're actually the sport in general, rugby is lucky that it can be played, all year round. We have in the summer here in Northern Hemisphere, we're having games in mostly Europe, North America, Asia, and so on. Whenever we're moving, closer to the winter, we have the Southern Hemisphere taking on and playing their stuff. But Rugby X is more like it's going to be indoor. You know, when I firstly saw it watched it on TV, I was like, damn, this might have some impact and get traction, like, you know, like the sports, the indoor sports like NBA and so on. Like, you know, sports could go on Friday night and watch.
Yeah, maybe. Indoor obviously brings its own benefits that you're not reliant on the weather. Yeah, possibly, but like, it is a festival of rugby, but sevens is a festival of rugby as well. There's no doubt.
Absolutely.
You know, there is a huge difference in sevens and 15s. Okay, they use the same shape ball. They have very, very similar rules. But you look at the athletes that you have in both sports, don't get me wrong, but the speed and the tenacity of the guys and girls playing sevens is absolutely unbelievable. Like, you know yourself, some of these guys, particularly the fast ones, the Perry Bakers, the Carla Niles, like, they could go to the Olympics doing track and field, and yet they're there playing rugby. That's how much they've invested in it. They've put their whole career in rugby, as has, you know, the guys playing 15s as well. But it is a different sport. It's very exciting. Look, 7 minutes a half. It's really, really fast. It's really great.
And we saw this at the beginning. The sevens player were also playing 15s. You know, like at the beginning, because sevens it wasn't that popular. And then once it actually got to the Olympics, you know, Rio 2016 and now Tokyo 2021. We see the split of profiles of players growing and training specifically for sevens full time, like Carl Niles, Perry Baker, and so on. You know, all the big guys, and then we have the 15s trained guys, and also the ladies joined the men's kind of tour and same stops for like 80%. I was talking earlier, I think in episode 2 with Jonathan Logel from France.
Yeah.
France national team, and he's excited that the girls joined the tour, but his downside was a little bit more that it's too long of days. What do you think about this feedback?
There's definitely different viewpoints on that, and I'm sure there is challenges, and I know my colleagues are actively looking at the whole schedules to see if what we've done is best. So you're right. Before this, we still had some joint up events like Dubai, you know, where you were a match official. That was a joint event with men and females, as were some other events. But there was a lot of standalone, both men and standalone females. So we thought at the time, and I suppose we still do think it was the right thing to do to bring them together. But it's definitely been reviewed. Sorry, I lost track there. You asked another question. I can't remember what it was.
The days are too long, and
well, the days are too long. Like, you know, you look at the schedule of sevens, it could start at 9 in the morning, it mightn't finish till 9 at night, and there's obviously lots of breaks in between. That's why a reason for taking the super session as well for the TV, because as I said, nobody's going to watch it day in, day out. Sorry, I remember now, the Olympics was the point.
Oh yeah.
So you're right, the Olympics, Rugby sevens was reintroduced, let's not forget, into the Olympics, because it had been there back in the 1900s as well. And I think USA are the sevens, no?
Okay, that's good.
We'd have to check. Rugby was an Olympic sport anyway, and I think USA were the previous holders of it. The big thing about the Olympics, though, in the sevens, is when you're an Olympic athlete in a lot of countries, you have access to better conditions and better funding than if you're not an Olympian athlete. So once rugby sevens got into the Olympics, as you say, pre-Rio, it opened up so many doors for the athletes in so many countries, like access to facilities for training, access to different specialists, whether it be nutrition or physical, and obviously access to money as well, so that they can continue the training and maybe didn't have to work to help them live.
Absolutely. And we're here as a lot of our audience are youth and guys who are trying, guys and gals who are trying to get into the industry. What would be your, because you also were a lecturer at Trinity College, if I'm not mistaken, and I think you're not anymore, but you can
correct. So yeah. So after I'd done my second master's in Trinity, I went back part-time lecturing for a couple of years, just to give it a try out. And I suppose your question here brings me back to how do people get involved? Brings me back to my earlier careers. Like, I learned so much around customer service, working in bars and being a postman as well. And it's been able to bring, I think, that like with a pure technology hat on, you cannot solve a problem until you know what the problem is. And the only way to really find out the problem is speak to people and find out what is their problem. Because it may not be technology related, or it could be, you know, if you're a developer, a UX developer, where do you put the buttons on the screen? If you are, you know, doing tech support, you have to find out what the problem is before you can fix it. So my previous career has definitely helped me with all my future work in International Rugby Board and World Rugby. So anyone I think that's looking to get into this, it's, if you have a passion for sport at all, which you don't need, if you do have it though, it goes a long way, because the days will be long. Sport is a very weekend driven, long days driven, probably not as good paid as you would if you're an accountant or a lawyer, or if you're working in private business like that, or corporate business. So if you have the passion for sport, it's going to help a lot. And like any projects, an eye for detail, putting your hand up, like anyone that knows me knows I keep saying this, no question is a stupid question. You know, nobody ever asks a stupid question. The question might not be the right one to ask at the time, but it will sow a seed with somebody else, and they'll say, oh yeah, remember this, and what about that? And it'll just snowball to getting a better outcome. So never be afraid to put your hand up and ask a question. Because like, what's the alternative? If you don't ask a question, you're going to do something wrong, or something's not going to progress. So I'd say customer service, and this is across any job, customer service, knowing your skills, knowing your traits, not being afraid to ask a question. Like, nobody in the world knows the answer to everything. Nobody. As much as they may seem confident, they may come across that they know everything. They don't. And everyone is there. Everyone starts at the bottom. Everyone has to learn. So yeah.
What about broadcasting as a, call it niche or area within sports business? What specific, if there are specific skills that maybe, you know, in finance, or if you want to be a CFO in sports, you definitely have to know finance really well. But when we're talking about broadcasting, is, you know, a specialist in a big data or something like that, what specific qualities might be?
But you know, there's so many different roles now in broadcast. You know, if you start at the top, you have the director. So what is a director to do? The director looks at all the pictures live, if we're talking about live sports, of course, and delivers what they hope is going to be engaging with the fan, what they deliver, what's going to be best for the sport. You have the producers that put it all together. You have exec producers, you have assistant producers, you have the video replay guys, you have the both video replay for the TV show and their managers, their supervisors. You have audio people, you have the IT people, you have then, forgetting about the broadcast, the linear broadcast, you have the graphics. Sorry, that's obviously linear broadcast, but you have the video replay guys. There's so many roles nowadays. Like, broadcast anymore is not just a cameraman, audio, graphics, and a director. It's so wide. So you could have a fantastic role and never go near a camera. You could work on broadcast all your life and never touch a camera or never worry about the shots that are going up on the screen. So listen, I think it's not really a job, it's a vocation more than, if you're willing to work every weekend that you can, to stand in the rain as a cameraman potentially and do it and come away smiling. To me, that's a vocation. It's not a role. It's not a job. I'd say anyone that's trying to get into it, you know, go to your local TV station, go to maybe some of the big broadcasters, keep an eye out on their websites like NEP, who run a lot of open days around the world because they are a true global organisation now. And if you get the chance, go along to their open day. They'll put you through and see, but they'll put you in the director's seat, show you what it's like. They'll put you behind the camera, show you what it's like. You don't need to be arty to get involved in broadcast in some areas of it. Some you do, some you don't. So if you think you'd like to do it, pick up your phone, go out and film someone playing out on the pitch outside and see what you can do with it if you want to do that side of it. So there's loads of opportunity.
Right, you heard it, guys. If you want to get, you know, more into filming, but also you have guys like, for example, from you're working with Hawkeye, if I'm not mistaken, for Rugby World Cup 2015 or also 19. I'm not sure.
Yeah, for all our events actually. So Hawkeye are our current video replay supplier. So from 2014, we've engaged with those guys to deliver video replay services to medical, site and commissioners and TMO. And also they provide, they don't do the analysis, but they provide the footage to the team analysts, both on site and remotely as well. We've a number of suppliers across, like, as I said, graphics, stats, video replay, the three areas that I look at. And what we try to do now is integrate, as opposed to look, we think we've the right products. It's all about integration. And to give you an example, the cycling commissioners at an event have a button for the Hawkeye system. It's just a USB button that they press when they see something. So they see something, press the button, it bookmarks it, they can go back and review it afterwards. And that's fantastic. We have the medical guys who use the same system. They can do similar. So those systems are integrated. So potentially if there's been a medical incident that the doctor has seen, he can press it, and that will, depending on the button that he presses, could lodge a bookmark for the cycling commissioner. So say it was a potential of foul play. But what we've also done as well, we've integrated the statisticians on site. So the guys and girls, I should say, sorry, the guys and girls who are on site at the sevens and are pressing a button for every event that happens. So, you know, try, yellow card, penalty, tackle, missed tackle, pass ball, all this type of stuff. So they're constantly logging all this for a number of reasons. One, it's used for the graphics, so we know how many things have happened to be able to show that on screen. Two, it goes back into our results and fixtures database back in Dublin, that we have an archive of everything that has happened. But we've also integrated that now with the Hawkeye system as well. So every time that a try happens, they press try in their system, and that sends an automatic call to the Hawkeye system, which clips up every try for us. All those tries then are made available to one of our social media editors. So he has one of the Hawkeye systems as well, and it auto bookmarks a number of different incidents or events, and that is one of them. So pre the integration, he used to get the world feed. He used to get the TX, the transmission, into his device. He'd have one single, that's all the footage he had, and he would clip up as he sees, and then he would make it available on social. We took the next step forward was he had the Hawkeye system. He's sitting beside him, so he went along and he coded it himself. So when something happened, he went, yeah, I'll have that, and I'll have it from all the different camera angles. He exported it to a USB drive, I think it was, and then he imported it to his system, and he done the magic that he done for social media. That was stage 2. And then stage 3 was it auto clips based on events driven by the statisticians. So it saves that, and then it's automatically available in his separate system. So we've cut out all the manual intervention from bar recording the event at the start until it appears in his system, to allow him edit that or discard it or use it and push to the social media platforms that we have. So they're the type of things that we're doing that actually doesn't cost any money. So we're using the same resources, the same budget, the same people, but we're making a far more streamlined and better product by integrating them together.
Right, and also working quote unquote with social media guys to provide provide content as it happens. I think that that's really valuable, and this is where we're moving. Ronan, before I let you go, we'll play a words associations game, and you definitely, if you listen to the other episodes, I'll say one word name or combination of words or so, and you have to tell me first thing that comes to your mind.
Perfect. I hope.
Right. Brian O'Driscoll.
Fast.
Rio 2016.
Sacrifice.
John Olamu.
Missed.
Carl Tanana.
Funny guy.
And NFL.
Interesting.
Cool. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Ronan Donagher, the IT and Broadcasting Technology Manager at World Rugby. Ronan, one last thing, if you want to say to our audience, or wishes or something like that, just go.
Oh, look, I've listened to your other podcasts, your previous episodes, and I can just reiterate what those guys said. I think it's great what you're doing. You know, it's great to have people who I hope know what they're talking about better maybe than I do later in your next episodes. But it's great to be able to bring this to anybody that's interested in trying to get involved. It's not rocket science. Sport, and in particular rugby, and look, all sports as well, it's everybody working together in one direction. That's really what it is. You know, we didn't mention the values of the sport, and we actually didn't mention, I've never played rugby. I know you have, and I listened to what you said about your pre-episode 1 about your dad and your uncle bringing you out with rugby, and you obviously got involved. I never played the sport. I never even watched it, to be honest with you, until I started working with the International Rugby Board. But what I do love about the sport, and I'm sure it's other sports as well, is the values that we have, and we definitely try and live. Nobody's perfect, but we try and live by them as best as we can. You know, if you look at, as I said, the values, solidarity, integrity, respect, the passion, and the discipline. Though, if we try and do those things when we're dealing with our own colleagues, our unions, the teams, everybody, we'll just deliver a fantastic product. You know. And listen, thank you. Thanks for doing this, and I think it's great what you're doing, bringing it to the masses.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Ronan. And I think everyone got a lot of value out of this, and especially giving a lot of what's going on behind the camera and how everything is set up. And thank you again for taking the time. And hope you're all safe and staying healthy and positive during these times. And looking forward to reconnect again soon.
Perfect, Huge. That's no problem. And look, if anybody wants to get in contact, I'm sure you can include my contact details if there's any questions or queries or anything like that. So listen, thank you very much.
Absolutely, I will, and looking forward.
Cheers. Bye.